This little figure in your textbook would be good to color code red and blue, although at some point, of course, you will realize that in an actual heart in the human body, they are not color coded, but it certainly helps with the understanding part. So let's start looking at where the heart sits in the body and some gross anatomy structures of the heart. It is shaped like a blunt cone. They always say it's about the size of a closed fist, but not my fist, like a big guy fist it would be, about that size. It weighs less than a pound, generally speaking. It is, of course, in the thoracic cavity. Here's your diaphragm. Everything above here is the thoracic cavity. And it sits behind the sternum and the costal cartilages. And it's actually sitting on the superior surface of the diaphragm. The bag that holds the heart, the pericardial sac, is actually attached to the diaphragm. And it's situated obliquely in, remember the mediastinum was the space between the two pleural cavities? So it's situated obliquely. So it's sitting like this, right? Not like this, that would be straight up and down, but obliquely. Okay. And about 2/3 of its mass lies to the left side of the midline. So it's more on the left side than the right side. If you can press your fingers, if you can count from sternum down 5 or 6 ribs, it's easier if you don't have breasts. Just below the left nipple, you can feel the heart beating as it contacts the anterior thoracic wall. The pointed end of the heart that actually points down is counterintuitively called the apex, which means top, but it also means point. And then this portion right here is actually called the base of the heart. The base has all the blood vessels coming off of it. And it is, of course, surrounded by the pericardial cavity, and we're about to talk about the pericardial cavity. In addition, one other little thing about the heart. So I told you it was situated obliquely, so it's more to the left side, but it's also slightly twisted so that from an anterior view, you actually are going to see more of the right side of the heart. It looks like the left side is actually smaller from an anterior view. It's not. It's just twisted so that you're seeing more of the right side from an anterior view. So it's kind of twisted this way and also twisted that way. Okay, so let's look at the pericardial cavity around the heart, the tissue layers around the heart. So way back when we did serous membranes, we learned about the pericardium, the pericardial cavity, pericardial sac. But what I didn't tell you was that in addition to the visceral and parietal pericardium and the pericardial cavity between them with serous fluid in it, around the outside, because the serous membrane is really thin and not very protective, there is also a thick layer of pericardium made of dense irregular connective tissue that is protective of the heart, and then the parietal pericardium is on the inside of that. Okay, so the outer layer that you're seeing is the fibrous pericardium, and then you come into contact right here with the parietal pericardium, which they call the parietal layer of the serous pericardium. It's parietal pericardium. And this fibrous pericardium actually stabilizes the heart within the cavity because it's attached anteriorly to the great vessels of the heart and posteriorly to the diaphragm. Okay, and then we move into the serous pericardium, the serous membrane. Again, parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium. And the parietal and visceral pericardium are continuous with one another, and between them is the space that we call the pericardial cavity, which on a good day should just have serous fluid in it. And the tissues that make up the serous membrane, remember, were a modified simple squamous epithelium with secretory capacity, and then areolar connective tissue underneath that. So the other name for the visceral pericardium is epicardium. That's a very commonly used name just for the visceral pericardium. And then remember, way back at the beginning of the semester, we talked about pericarditis. If you get this pericardium annoyed, irritated, it can start to overproduce fluid, which will actually put pressure on the heart and limit its ability to fill maximally. Okay, so if we look more closely here, we can look at the layers of the heart. So we're going to kind of move in from the endocardium, which is the same as the visceral pericardium, and then move in from there. Okay, so, oh, I said endocardium, I meant epicardium. So the epicardium is the same as the visceral pericardium. And remember, it's made of simple squamous epithelium and then areolar connective tissue. Although, as we get older, we tend to build up fat in this layer as well. So, epicardium, and then the myocardium is the cardiac muscle itself. It's really, really vascular. You've got a whole bunch of blood vessels going through it. So that's called the myocardium layer. And then the endocardium is the inner layer of the heart. It is made of simple squamous epithelium and connective tissue, areolar connective tissue. So epi, myo, endocardium. Those are the layers that you have there. The endocardium has to be really, really smooth and slippery. Otherwise, you can catch a platelet and make an accidental clot. Okay, so I'll stop there and then we'll do the chain.